sets November 2nd as the election date. Among the issues, the trust fund. The first Canadian ever reaches the summit of Mount Everest. The Swedes may have another Soviet sub trapped in the waters near Stockholm. Lance Brown reports on baseball playoffs, and Bill predicts cloudy weather.
ITV News. 10 o'clock edition with Barbara Kelly and Doug Main.
Good evening. What will be the most expensive election campaign ever conducted in Alberta is now formally underway. The announcement came this morning. November 2nd is the date, and political parties are already buying up airtime. The governing PCs are even producing 4 30-minute television programs. All of this in preparation for the election day, Tuesday, November 2nd. The Premier made the announcement this morning saying that his party will run on a pro-Alberta theme. With more on the election, Margaret Leahy.
Many Albertans have been expecting a fall election, but what wasn't clear up until now was the issue Premier Lougheed would run on.
The first issue is the Heritage Savings Trust Fund and the new directions in using the Heritage Savings Trust Fund today, using it to get through this period of economic downturn, which is what we announced on September the 7th.
Ever since that date, the trust fund has conveniently been the subject of massive government advertising, promoting such programs as mortgage subsidies and loan shielding for farmers and small businessmen. The government had planned to seek legislative approval to enable such trust fund spending during the fall sitting that was supposed to get underway on October 20th. Now Albertans will be asked to give their approval first. This has prompted NDP leader Grant Notley to accuse the Premier of deceiving Albertans. Even so, Mr. Notley welcomes the election. He's confident his Socialist Party will at least form the official opposition.
Socialism isn't going to be, socialism in the context of the scare campaigns of the past isn't going to be an issue, because what will be an issue is this government's arrogance, the need for democracy in the legislature, the need to have a balance, but a balance between options that are reasonable.
The Alberta WCC is anxious to fight its first provincial election, hopefully with a full slate of candidates. Leader Gordon Kessler says because Albertans will only decide on independence through referendum, separatism won't be a big issue in this campaign. But he says although the Tories plan to ignore federal issues, WCC won't. The National Energy Program, he says, will be stressed.
Because a lot of the federal issues are the issues that are infringing on the rights of Albertans, and the federal issues are the issues that are eroding the economic base of Alberta. They're important. Just as they were important 4 years ago when he campaigned on them, they're important today. The only difference is he hasn't done anything about them.
Whatever the results on Election Day, though, Premier Lougheed makes it clear this will be his last election. But if re-elected, the Premier stresses he will stay on as party leader well into the new term. What happens after that? Well, the Premier says jokingly that he'd like to look at either teaching or journalism. Any plans he might have had for the federal Tory leadership have finally been ruled out. Margaret Leahy, ITV News at the Legislature.
This is Ted Preston. Alberta's Chief Electoral Office has been quietly preparing for months for the election call. When the specific date was announced today, this office exploded into a hive of activity. It is from here that the election process will be coordinated. There is much to be done over the 28 days between now and Election Day, November 2nd. The enumeration process is complete. Now, voter lists must be compiled, then printed, then revised to keep them up to date and accurate. Returning officers across the province must open offices, have telephones installed, and then determine the number of polling stations needed and their locations. By Election Day, some 4,700 polling stations must be ready for the electorate. The deadline for candidate nominations is 2 p.m. October 19th. After the deadline, candidate lists must be finalized, then printed. Only after the candidates are known will the ballots be printed, then distributed, along with ballot boxes, to polling stations. Some 10,000 people are needed to run the election on Election Day. The effort required to run a smooth election is immense, and the cost is high. In the 1979 election, the cost ran to $1.5 million. Electoral officials say this election will cost in the neighborhood of $4 million to run. Ted Preston, ITV News.
We have our legislative reporter Margaret Leahy with us now. Margaret, can you fill us in exactly on the timing of this election? It's unusual. Some people felt it might not come till the spring.
Well, Doug, in politics, timing is everything. You call an election when you figure you have the best chance at winning. And really, a fall vote is not that much of a surprise. The Premier has been pampering voters with handouts from the Heritage Trust Fund, and there'll be more announcements throughout the 28-day campaign. So rather than wait until after a winter of discontent with record-high unemployment, he's decided to go now.
Some people have suggested that going now is nothing more than opportunism, that the Premier feels he can win now, but he's a good 18 months prior to his mandate running out.
Well, that's what the opposition parties are saying, but I think it's going to be a very lively campaign, certainly a very expensive one to conduct. Albertans are going to be bombarded with election advertising. The Premier expects that it's going to be a difficult election campaign for him. The difficulty will depend on the opposition parties, and by that we're referring to the NDP and the WCC. They say they're going to focus on the Lougheed record, his fiscal management, economic diversification, accountability, and the arrogance that they've so often criticized the government for. The WCC will also be focusing on federal issues, the National Energy Program, and I suspect they're going to get the government, the Premier in particular, to defend his support of the Dome deal. This is very interesting because it allows more federal control of over the oil and gas industry, and they're going to nail the Premier, I suspect, on that.
So you think it's going to be a lively campaign and nasty, do you feel?
I think that remains to be seen. It remains to be seen how the opposition parties conduct themselves, how well organized they are, how well they manage to get their message across. The Tory machine is big and it's powerful, and people are going to have to be convinced that they shouldn't vote Conservative this time.
Good. Thank you very much, Margaret. Now, with some of the other news from around the world, including the Everest climb, here's Barbara Kelly.
Doug, the Canadian flag is flying on top of Mount Everest. A Calgary man has completed the Canadian team's tragic climb on the mountains of the world's highest mountain.
So a Canadian has now joined some 100 other climbers who've made it to the top of the world. The final push, slightly over half a mile, was made in record time by Laurie Skreslet from Calgary and 2 Sherpa guides. For one of the Sherpas, it was another record, a 3rd time at the top of Everest. Skreslet, a 32-year-old mountaineering instructor, was thought to be in the best shape to make the journey to the very top. He'd spent some days recuperating at lower altitudes after recovering the body of another Canadian killed last month on the Khumbu icefall.
I helped carry down the body of the Sherpa that we could retrieve, and was there when we retrieved Blair. And I kept wondering if there's something wrong with me, but I felt I still had a lot left inside me.
As always, Everest demanded a stiff price for the right to venture onto her slopes. 1 Canadian, 3 Sherpas dead. There were disagreements. 6 members of the team dropped out.
I had a lot of trouble just asking myself how important it was for us to stand on top of the mountain. Was it worth killing more people to get up there?
And from some complaints, the pressures of sponsorship and publicity were simply too much. It's thought the cost of the expedition, much of it borne by Air Canada, could reach $1 million. The Canadian team had initially chosen the most difficult and unclimbed route, but switched to the traditional South Column route following a bout of bad weather and the tragic deaths in the notorious Khumbu icefall. Even today there were hitches. The much heralded live television pictures showing the arrival on the summit could not be taken. Camera batteries were knocked out by the bitter cold. However, much of the expedition was seen live from one of the world's most remote areas, a technological feat. And today, any exhaustion or disappointment was forgotten in the exhilaration of achieving the goal. And there's still the hope other team members will also make the attempt. John Darby, Global News.
Well, Laurie Skreslet's achievement today is being enjoyed by many Canadians, but most of all by his friends and relatives in Calgary.
The successful Everest climb has made banner headlines here, and people are eager to read about the hometown boy made very good. The story of Laurie Skreslet is a classic adventure. He ran away and went to sea when he was 16, then returned to Calgary, where he's been heavily involved in mountain climbing for the past 12 years. When he's not scaling Everest, Skreslet's a freelance guide in the Rockies. While he was making that historic assault on the world's tallest peak, Skreslet's relatives and friends spent some anxious hours before they got the good news.
Once we
found out that he had made the climb and that he had done it quicker than anybody else had done it, him and the two Sherpas, we were really pleased.
He's a very outgoing person with a good sense of humor, and he really thinks a lot about what he does and what actions he takes.
When Laurie Skreslet comes back to Calgary in a few weeks, he'll probably face endorsement opportunities and all kinds of speaking engagements. But despite the hero's welcome, most things in Laurie's life will stay the same. He'll continue living in this house, the house he was born in. This is Gil Tucker reporting.
Patriotism hasn't been a hot commodity in Ottawa since perhaps the Constitution was proclaimed earlier this year. But today's conquering of Mount Everest was cause for celebration on Parliament Hill.
In External Affairs Minister Alan McEachin's terms, the latest conquest of Everest may have given Canadians little more than a better idea of life in a country with higher mountains and worse weather. Still, political Ottawa was unanimous in its praise of the men who helped add Canada's name to the list of those who have climbed to the top of the world.
Well, that's a good compliment for the audacity of Canadians. You know, we're very entrepreneur, and I'm very glad to see that we have succeeded in one more thing.
And I'm just as excited about it as I was back in 1953 at the time of the coronation when we learned that Hillary climbed Mount Everest. Now it's Canada's turn, and it's a great, great event for us.
It is, of course, tragic that there were deaths that occurred earlier in the attempt, but it is indeed a matter that many Canadians will take great satisfaction in the fact that this achievement has occurred.
As the country's sport and fitness minister during preparations for the climb, Mr. Regan held talks with the organizers, but says taxpayers put no money into the assault. Indirectly, however, through the CBC, they did. The corporation paid a reported $225,000 in cash and ad considerations for exclusive television rights that it used to provide Canadians with accounts of the expedition's tragedies and triumph. Another Crown corporation, Air Canada, also spent $300,000, though it too says the money was well spent.
We have an enormous advertising budget, as any large airline, any large corporation has, to expand our product, to expose our product. And it was agreed that part of that budget would indeed be directed to the Everest expedition.
In a telegram to the Canadian Everest team, Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau pays tribute to what he describes as the heroic struggle that captured the imaginations of all Canadians and the attention of the world. Part of that attention was focused on the 1 Canadian and 3 Sherpas who died in the $1 million expedition, and it is those deaths that raise the question about the real costs of an adventure that has allowed Canada to add one of its own to the list of more than 100 who have now scaled the world's paramount peak. Doug Small, Global News, Ottawa.
Wednesday! The price shocker is back! 12 cubic foot freezer, $333 at the Brick Warehouse. Complete early American bedroom, $677. The Brick is zapping prices on hundreds of items store-wide. Don't miss this final price shocking day. Wednesday! At the Brick, 101st Street on Wednesday only.
Hello, Frank's Tranny Shop? Yeah, I need some warranty work. No, I haven't got Frank's Tranny Shop's special rabbit's foot. No, my socks are blue. What do you mean it isn't valid then?
At low cost, it's automatic.
At Low Cost Automatic Transmission, we're specialists. We give full guarantees on all our work. The service, automatic.
At low cost, it's automatic.
You new truck buyers out there can be winners, too, at Giant Mike Brewer Chrysler Plymouth here on Fort Road in Edmonton. Now, the 83 models are in, and we've got over 100 new cars and trucks on their way here right now. What does that mean? That means you better get in here and place your order today because we're clearing them out like we cleared out the 1982 models. $49 is all you need to take delivery, and we're out to prove to you that there will never be a better time to buy an 83 than right now for Mike Brewer. 478-9511 is a phone number. Call now.
We're partners. How come you get paid more money than I do? Because I work more than you do?
There is a client in there.
For real?
For real.
Well, great. That's 2 this month.
Well,
Watch the season debut of Simon & Simon,
Thursday at 6:30 on ITV. Then at 7:30, the Emmy Award-winning series MASH brings you all your favorite crazy characters in a harebrained, hilarious comedy. MASH at 7:30 on ITV.
Local taxi companies are anxious about an upcoming decision on taxi service at the international airport. The contract is coming up for renewal, and for the first time, the airport may allow a number of companies to share in the lucrative airport fares. Connie Monk has a report.
Since the 1960s, Yellow Cab has had the exclusive right to pick up passengers at the international airport. To win the contract, the company promised to deliver a certain level of service. In addition, according to the terms of the current contract, the company has had to pay $27,000 annually to the federal government for the privilege. That contract will expire at the end of March 1983. A group of government, airline, and airport officials are now considering the possibility of having an open contract instead of an exclusive one.
The number one criteria that we're interested in is the service to the public, that the public has got to have the service of cabs no matter what the weather. If it's a day like today, fine, but when it's 40 below and it's blowing at 50 miles an hour, we still want cabs out there, and so service is the number one criteria.
Mr. Hutchison claims there have been no complaints about Yellow Cab service, but he also maintains all options have to be considered. Local cab companies are pleased that the airport is considering the open system. Co-op taxi manager Mark Ray says the way the system runs now means lost money for companies which don't have the contract. Now, if a company other than Yellow Cab takes a passenger to the airport, the taxi must return without a fare.
This way, in essence, every company except Yellow is, in a sense, subsidizing Yellow to detract from our source of income. So the only fair way to be running any public thing is on an open basis.
A decision on the contract is expected to be made within the next month or so. Connie Monk, ITV News.
An important part of fighting a fire successfully is knowing what action to take or to avoid at exactly the right moment. Making the correct decision is particularly crucial when dealing with emergencies involving volatile fuels or dangerous chemicals. Ted Preston reports.
Practice is perhaps the fire department's best tool in combating fire. Practice and experience are essential in bringing a potentially disastrous emergency to a safe conclusion. These senior Edmonton firemen are practicing at the Dow Chemical Fire Training Facility in Fort Saskatchewan. Every emergency, from a tank car derailment to a chemical spill, is different. Every fire has individual characteristics that have to be recognized before action is taken. As firemen say, you've got to know what you're up against.
It's the unknown that you, in the real thing, that you've really got to be alert for, such as safety valves on tank cars, spillage, where it's going to, if it's a propane, is it going to get into sewers? And I think that all those things have got to be going through your mind prior to your arrival or when you get there as to, hey, what can you expect? And you've got to know the equipment that you're dealing with, and if it's a tank car, you've got to know tank cars.
These firemen want to know everything there is to know about tank car fires and more. Their lives and the lives of others could depend on that knowledge. These senior firemen may not handle a hose in a real emergency. Their job is to direct other men. But the senior officers must know what their men will face. It's all part of knowing what you're up against. So these firemen practice month after month and learn and wait for the day when what they've learned is put to the real test. Ted Preston, ITV News.
The complaints about Canada's Foreign Investment Review Agency have been growing louder lately. Apparently, they've been loud enough to be heard in the halls of Ottawa. Trade Minister Ed Lumley says changes will be made.
The appointment of Bob Richardson to oversee Ottawa's foreign ownership restrictions is viewed as the first in a series of changes to FIRA. When he takes over the agency mid-month, he's expected to bring to the job greater sensitivity to business interests and needs.
Oh, yes, I think I'm sensitive to the requirements of business. In other words, I know what they have to do in order to run a business.
Facing Mr. Richardson is a list of complaints from foreign investors. Excessive paperwork and bureaucratic red tape have long vexed foreign companies, as have delays. They also find worrisome the level of secrecy involved in FIRA's screening process. Canada's new industry minister promises to make that process more open and more streamlined. And to that end, he's contemplating doing away with provincial consultation.
Since the provinces have stated that most of them like to drop fare, then obviously maybe that's one of the avenues we could take, which again will cut out some of the time in decision making.
Along with these initiatives, there have been attempts to improve strained relations with the United States. In a recent interview with the New York Times, the Prime Minister played down tensions between the two countries by declaring he'd no great quarrel with the U.S. administration. Despite the conciliatory remarks and new faces, though, some government officials caution against expecting any significant change in policy. What the government is attempting to do at this point is send out the right signals to restore business confidence and encourage investment. Nancy Wilson, Global News, Ottawa.
And there's lots of business talk here in Edmonton. What's being billed as the biggest computer and office system show going on in Edmonton. And as we hear in this report from Bill Hutchison, they tell us it's a huge success.
It's like a department store for business. Everything from some of the most sophisticated computers to filing systems to art prints to hang in your office. People flock to shows like this to see what's new in an effort to make their business more profitable.
We get a tremendous turnout for these shows because the development of technology is it's burgeoning. It's changing from month to month, and there's something in the computers and word processing industries for everybody now. And the change is that quickly that there's always an audience for it. And there seems to be a sale for it, even at tough times like this as well.
All the big names are represented: Brother, Wang, Radio Shack, Nashua, Sharp. For many of these companies, however, the benefits won't be seen in the immediate future.
The long-term effects or benefits are difficult to gauge in a day or two. We trust that the exposure of the product, the exposure of the various solutions we have to businessmen's problems are things that will build over a period of time. It'd be very nice to think that we'd be able to get a fast return on the investment of the people, the booth, the equipment, but it's more in terms of long range. We anticipate the benefits to us.
The show is the first of its kind in Edmonton. Organizers are so pleased with its success, they're already planning for another. Bill Hutchison, ITV News.
With unemployment figures at record levels, there are many university graduates joining the ranks of the jobless. Now, some students are trying to avoid falling in that category by keeping close contact with the business sector. A seminar was held today at the University of Alberta that brought members of the business community to the students.
More than 40 companies, ranging from accounting firms to manufacturing and industrial companies, participated in today's Career Days seminar. The event was organized by students to open communication lines with the business community. The day was an ideal time for students to find out what job opportunities exist in the business world and how their education could fit into those positions.
There is a lot of options available, and I think with Careers Day, you can find out exactly what your options are. You can talk to a lot of companies, and perhaps companies that you hadn't even thought you could work for. There's a possibility there that you were really interested in, and I think it's great. It's a great way for students to find out what reality is out in the business world.
While many of these companies aren't hiring at the present time, organizers maintain it's still important for students to realize the potential employment opportunities in the business world. Organizers of this event believe that students should have more contact with the business community and plan to hold more of these seminars in the future. They say that in these tough economic times, a degree isn't necessarily a key to employment, and stress that students must explore every option in order to get a job. Maureen Sales, ITV News.
The glory of nature, captured in a unique white wine. Schloss Latterheim, nurtured to perfection from a blend of carefully selected premium grapes. Light tasting, mellow, splendid, delightful. Schloss Latterheim. Experience the glory of nature.
Chevy's #1 and determined to keep it that way. So #1 is taking charge with the driving excitement of the all-new Chevy Cavalier TVI. With new computer-controlled throttle body fuel injection, responsive new 2-liter engine, and Cavalier's new positive 5-speed transmission. Cavalier TVI, a special edition for Canada, styled to match its driving excitement from Chevrolet. #1 is taking charge.
Like classical music, the elegance of custom-designed furniture from FDY never fades. If you can dream it, we can make it.
I am the ghostly odor of your old fish dinners, and I'm the ghostly odors of your old socks and stale cigars.
Don't be frightened of the air you breathe. Get a Philips Ecologizer. Its unique CA90 Plus filter removes visible smoke, dust, and pollen. And those ghostly invisible odors you can't see. Nothing cleans ghastly air like it. Because there's nothing else like the Ecologizer from Philips.
What is happening with Tylenol in Chicago is shocking and scary, but the situation became terrifying today when authorities discovered strychnine in Tylenol tablets in a California store. The Federal Drug Administration is pulling out all the stops to track down those responsible and also to try to protect the American people from those who are tampering with over-the-counter drugs.
At a news conference, federal government and drug industry officials indicated that the criminal tampering with Tylenol capsules may pose a national health hazard. FDA Commissioner Dr. Arthur Hayes said that until the government finds out how widespread the problem is, the public will have to exercise extreme caution.
Consumers must also act to protect themselves from injury by being aware of the conditions of the packages they buy, the pills and capsules they take, and the liquids they drink.
The head of the drug industry also urged restraint on the part of local officials who want to immediately order seals on all over-the-counter products.
One of the ways that the consumer can be hurt worst would be to have conflicting and differing local requirements imposed upon a national industry.
These statements were prompted by reports today that extra-strength Tylenol capsules sold at this drugstore in Oroville, California, contain strychnine, the first case of poison Tylenol outside the Chicago area. Last Thursday, before the Chicago poisonings were widely known, a 27-year-old man suffered convulsions after taking some of the extra-strength capsules, but he recovered. The company that makes Tylenol has now ordered retailers to stop selling both extra-strength and regular-strength Tylenol capsules. Drug industry experts meet Thursday to discuss how they can come up with new tamper-resistant packages. The FDA will work on new federal regulations, and there's talk of Congress eventually requiring warning seals on all over-the-counter drugs. But for the time being, everyone agrees consumers will have to protect themselves. Carol Simpson, ABC News, Washington.
Well, about a year ago, there was a near international incident involving the Soviet Union and Sweden. A sub ran aground off the coast of Sweden. Well, now the Swedes may have another Soviet sub surrounded in their waters. They say something is lurking underneath the surface just outside one of their very sensitive military bases. So far, it has not come up and identified itself as friendly.
It has not identified itself at all, but Sweden is using these electronic devices to keep track of its location and is confident that it is a sub and that sooner or later it'll have to come to the surface. For since a periscope was first spotted last Friday, Swedish anti-sub units have been dropping depth charges, not to hit or hurt the intruders, but to scare them up, learn who they are and why they're here. Today, 20 depth charges were dropped. A defense spokesman said afterward that spots of oil appeared on the water, which might indicate some damage. Also, these waters go only 130 feet down at their deepest, and the only two passages wide enough for an escape have been blocked by Swedish subs, surface ships, and netting. What makes this especially serious is that the intruders are quite close to this naval base at Moskva, home of Sweden's most sophisticated defensive weapons and key to its eastern defense. The foreign minister of this neutral nation says whoever is under the water, they may be seriously damaging relations.
to us, it's very important to show to the outside world that we do not accept violation of our working.
The Soviet sub found here about this time last year was the only sub ever caught red-handed in Swedish waters. So, while recent experience makes the Soviet Union most suspect here, there is still tonight no hard clues as to the sub's identity. However, when asked about speculation inside the government, an official here said tonight, well, we all guess the same thing, of course. Greg Dobbs, ABC News, Stockholm.
Well, we can hope for more sunny skies. Bill, do you think they might come through for us?
Oh, a little later on, I guess, Barbara. Good evening, everyone. It's going to be cloudy. It's going to be cloudy tomorrow, and everybody's going to say, oh, it's going to rain and all that stuff. Nonsense. Well, at least I hope it's nonsense. The outlook is simply this, that we're going to get cloudy weather tomorrow. The weather isn't going to get very much cooler. As a matter of fact, with the clouds coming in tonight, we may get away without that frost in the morning. We may not have to spend 15 minutes getting all the frost off our car. The main thing on the weather map tonight is this low-pressure area up here. Now, this low-pressure area has what we call a trough, which comes down here. It's very intense and very, very tight, you might say. If you're drawing isobars around this thing, you'd find that they're very dense and close together like that. Cool air is whipping around here. Warm air is coming up in through here. But what has happened is that the cold front is located down here just off the Charlotte Islands with a warm front proceeding over about like that. This thing is expected to come barreling into the province tomorrow. Right now, they have all kinds of cloudy weather in British Columbia, in the northern part here, and it has been raining most of the day up in the northern and central parts of British Columbia. This is expected to come through the province at about that angle, and when it does that, the sunny weather we had today will yield to all the cloud, which is brought about by the fact that this is what we call a wave. Warm air coming up here, cold air coming around here, and these two disparate air masses forming the cloud mass that you'll see in just a few moments on our satellite map. However, there is something else which is of keen interest to us and our health and security. And this is a high-pressure area here with another high-pressure area over in Hudson's Bay. Now, these two weather systems are joined together with an enormous ridge like this. Now, throughout this ridge today, at least in most places, it was a nice sunny day. Sunny up in through here, sunny here, and sunny here, although down in the southern part here, it was cloudy and miserable and snowing and drizzly, but that's because of something else. The main thing about this high-pressure area is this. Highs tend to push away all the bad weather like that. High-pressure areas are depositories of cooler weather. They push the weather away like this. The rotation of the Earth imparts a right-hand turn to all the winds coming out. Therefore, we say the circulation around a high is clockwise. Having that in mind, we're going to get the southwesterly winds tomorrow, and this system is going to go sailing up like that. Mind you, they may get some rain in the northern end of the province tomorrow, but the percentage chance of precipitation will diminish as you come south. They're about 80% up in through here, maybe 60% here. We're looking at 30%, 10%, and so on. But with that high-pressure area there, I'm almost sure that Edmonton's weather is going to remain simply cloudy. Not very much cooler. As a matter of fact, we expect it to be 1 degree warmer tomorrow than what it was today. Now, you're wondering about all these fives, only one above it, Minot, North Dakota today, 5 in Winnipeg, 4 in the northwestern part of Ontario. Now, the reason for that is this. There's a low-pressure area by James Bay here, a cold front like there, and then it becomes a warm front into another low-pressure area here, then a cold front down like that. Now, look at these enormous warm temperatures down here. As a matter of fact, for heaven's sake, they got up to 25 above today in Windsor, and they got up to 18 in Toronto. Now, these lows as they come by are bringing up all this warm air from the south like that. There comes all this warm air, except in here, where we get the cold air coming down. But the thing of it is, as these low-pressure areas come up, they scoop up all this warm air. The warm air overrides the resident cold air up in through here, and that's where we have all this mass of cloud and stuff like that all the way in through here with snow across this area, and then it changes to rain in through here and into southern Saskatchewan, and they're getting drizzle down there as well. Now, this is all very well to show you, you might say, academically on the weather map, but we have a very good satellite shot for you to watch right now, and you can see what we're talking about. First of all, there is the low-pressure area which is causing all the celebration right now. There it is, as you can see, all nicely wound, nicely wound around itself. Then down here is where we have that detached cold front. There it is swinging here with a warm front across here. But you can see that great massive cloud that is building around there at the present time. Now, this is expected to slide up this way because of the presence of the high-pressure ridge there, connected with another high-pressure area down in through here. Mind you, all the forces of evil are trying to invade, but they're not going to knock down our high-pressure area at all. And here's that area in eastern part of the Prairie provinces where they are getting the bad weather, and down to the United States as well. The forecast for the Edmonton area. calls for increasing cloud tonight with an overnight low of +3 in the city. Tomorrow it's going to be cloudy with a high temperature predicted at 14 degrees. Now the outlook for the day after tomorrow is a little bit dubious at this time because as we saw on the satellite map, we have that extremely tightly wound low pressure area all set to start invading. And that's going to happen after tomorrow's weather. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. I just don't want to talk about it right now because you can't tell really. So that's it, Barbara.
Okay, Bill, thank you. We'll be back with more ITV News right after this.
When the Jarretts decided to modernize the family business, they added a fleet of tri-motos from Yamaha. With the new 4-stroke 200 for Billy Bob, the 175 for Old Eb, and the 125 for Little Luke, getting to the office was a whole lot easier, especially since the office kept getting further out of town. They can even haul quite a load or make deliveries. So what they like best about their tri-motos is that feeling of freedom you get just getting away.
For the dreams you've grown up with and hold on to so dearly. For the promises you've made to yourself. Safe, secure Canada Savings Bonds. Your bond with the future. On sale October 25th.
Some secrets you just can't keep under your hat. So hats off to beautiful hair. Hats off to Limage. A whole new way to beautiful color. Limage. Rich, luminous color. Never brassy. With a new concept in conditioning for hair that's sensationally soft. Silky. From one coloring to the next. So hats off to Limage. The ultimate hair color. Don't keep it under your hat.
Become a connoisseur of film, music, and stage. Delight your palate with a new taste from the world of entertainment every weeknight. Get the juiciest tidbits of gossip from the glittering gourmet's dream world, Las Vegas, or a direct feed from Columbia, Fox, or Paramount. Your hosts, Ron Hendren and Mary Hart, will cook up a delectable delight each weeknight at midnight on Entertainment Tonight. Make it your favorite midnight snack. And join us right here on ITV, Channel 13, Cable 8.
Car sales continue to be slow. All automakers report fewer sales last month than for September a year ago, all except Chrysler in the U.S., whose sales were up 14%. But all the car makers are full of hope. Today is New Year's Day in Detroit.
These 1983 models are being unveiled at what some experts call the most critical point in the auto industry's history. A deep 4-year slump has brought $12 billion in losses on U.S. operations. 250,000 workers have lost their jobs, many of them for good. Sales are the lowest in more than 2 decades. Yet the lords of Detroit, publicly at least, are as optimistic as ever.
Well, 1983 is going to be the greatest outpouring of new products that we've ever had in our history.
The auto industry has been able to lead the country out of the recessions before. And I believe that can happen now, and I believe it will happen.
All in all, it'll be our great product year, and it's exciting, and I hope the public finds it as exciting as I find it.
Prices, which skyrocketed 47% in the past 3 years to a current average of $9,500 a car, will go up this year by less than 2%, and will actually be lower on some slow-selling lines, undercutting the imports that now have 30% of the market. But among independent experts, there's doubt that even that will be enough.
I would not look for a major rebound. I would look for the industry to just be able to hold its own.
The U.S. companies face 2 difficult problems, the recession and the widespread belief that Japanese cars are better built.
We made a lot of mistakes in the past. We probably got a little fat and a little sloppy here and there, whether it was design or processing or the guy coming to work on time or whatever.
To improve quality, the industry is turning to sophisticated equipment, like this computer that lets Chrysler engineers design, test, and modify parts in a fraction of the time previously required. Automation is transforming manufacturing, too. In this Cadillac engine plant, robots now carry out delicate assembly tasks that once were unheard of. For example, inserting the camshaft in engine blocks. And to improve human performance, The companies are trying a variety of approaches to overcome decades of hostility between management and labor.
Yeah, you guys have done a hell of a job. You've come a long way.
This Ford Employee Involvement Group is a combination morale-boosting and suggestion-exchanging session designed to raise both quality and productivity. But ironically, even though most outside experts now agree that Detroit's quality is much improved, many believe it won't help much.
Although the quality is there and the improvements are there, the consumer may not want to buy a new car this year, whether it be domestic or foreign.
44 top economists surveyed each month by blue-chip economic indicators look for sales of U.S. cars to go up only 18% next year to about 6.7 million. That would be the same level as in disastrous 1980 and far below the record of 9.6 million cars sold in 1973. With their manufacturing, labor, and overhead costs now lower, the three major companies could survive such a year, but it would do nothing to restore them to financial health. Riding on this 1983 model and others like it is an $80 billion bet. The money invested by the U.S. auto industry in recent years in new plants, new processes, new products. Will they succeed? No one can say for sure, but one thing is certain, they'd better, or the industry that once led all the rest could be relegated to a permanent place among the also-rans of business. Dan Courts, ABC News, Detroit.
Buy, sell, trade. How do you make a choice in the marketplace? Picking a reputable and reliable business is not always easy. Where you buy and why you buy should not be a game of chance. Don't gamble. Consult the book. The Better Business Bureau Blue Book, your guide to the Edmonton area marketplace and people you can depend on. The Blue Book is delivered free of charge throughout Edmonton and northern Alberta. Drawing an ace in the hole won't make you a winner in the marketplace, but dealing with a business with a clean track record always makes good sense. Investigate before you invest.
Hold everything, Edmonton. The Army and Navy's warehouse disposal sale is being held over till Saturday, October 9th. New goods are being added to the sale daily. The Army and Navy wishes to extend an apology to those who were not served due to the tremendous crowds. And for this reason, the warehouse disposal sale is being held over till Saturday, October 9th. One more week of extra specials. Thank you, Edmonton, for making this all happen. The Army and Navy, Canada's original discount department store.
There's my neighbor, Willis. He's fall applying Treflan QR5 granular. Looks easy. No water to haul. Spread right on field track. Says QR5 keeps his field weed-free till next year's canola harvest. Come spring, he'll be ready for seeding. Willis can keep ahead of the weeds next year. Keep ahead of the spring work, too. He can keep ahead of the seasons with Treflan QR5, but he's not going to keep ahead of me.
Treflan and you. Ingrid Bergman is a woman called Golda in her Emmy Award-winning performance that traces the life of Golda Meir, who from a young girl had a dream for her Jewish homeland. Emerging years later as a renowned political leader, she became a living symbol of the freedom for which she fought.
We must have our own state, and the time is now. And if the only way we can have it is to go to war, we'll go to war. And we'll beat you.
A Woman Called Golda, Part 1, Wednesday at 8 on ITV.
Well, it's busy now. We got football, and we've got the hockey season starting. We also got the World Series playdowns going on. Here's Lance to bring us up to date.
Who gets stuck with all the highlights, in other words. Thanks, Doug. Good evening, everyone. Veteran left-hander Tommy John must have been granted 3 wishes by the good fairy somewhere because he got his first 2 and he's off on the right foot for number 3. John wanted out of New York. He got out this season. He wanted to be part of a pennant winner again. He got that too. And tonight he pitched the distance with a 7-hitter in winning Game 1 of the American League Championship for the California Angels.
In the first inning, Mike Caldwell got out of a jam after a misplay double play ball and a wild pitch gave the Angels 2 on, none out. Don Baylor drove in the first run of the game with 1 out. A fly ball to center scored Brian Downing, but that was all. Angels led 1-0. Top of the second, the Brewers got that back. Ted Simmons singled before Gorman Thomas got all of Tommy John's breaking ball and rode it deep. The Brewers added 1 in the top of the third. Cecil Cooper hit into a possible double play, but beat the throw and scored Paul Molitor 3-1. The Angels erupted for 4 in the same inning. Brian Downing walked, Doug DeCinces singled, and Bobby Gritt scored Downing from second. With none out, Don Baylor nailed a shot off the 386 marker at right center, His triple scored to Cincy and Gritch. 4-3, the California Angels led. They added one more with Reggie Jackson sacrificed grounder to second. Baylor came in 5-3 after 3. Two more for the Angels in the fourth with Bob Boone and DeCincy on base. Don Baylor knocking his fifth RBI of the game, 7-3 after 4. In the fifth, the last run of the ball game, Fred Lynn sent this one to right field off reliever Jim Slayton, 8-3 California. Tommy John went all the way as Jim Gantner flied out. The Angels take a 1-0 lead in the best of 5, 8-3 final. Greg Musselman, ITV Sports.
So, in the American Championship, the series stays in Anaheim for Game 2 there tomorrow night. Pete Vukovich for the Brewers, Bruce Keeson for the Angels. The first game of the National Series in St. Louis tomorrow night. Phil Niekro on the mound for Atlanta, while Joaquin Andujar will start for the Cards. Another National Hockey League season began tonight with 3 games. Here, the Oilers, who are given credit for a better defense this season, didn't show it. Though a few of the faces were different, the show was the same as the locals simply outscored the Calgary Flames in Game 1. Of note, Ken Lintzman and Yaroslav Puzar scored their first Oiler goals, while Wayne Gretzky got just 1 point. Grant Fuhr looked ready, though his goals against is now 5. 7-5 the final. The Oilers' first goal of the season was scored at 7:57. Yaroslav Puzar's first in the league after a pass from Yari Curry on a blast to the far side of Don Edwards. The Oilers made it 2-0 a minute later at 8:54 of the first. Paul Reinhardt's never-do-this pass gave Glenn Anderson a splendid deke on Edwards. The Oilers went up by 3 on a goal by Dave Hunter after Lee Fogelin and Glenn Anderson had set him up. The shot off Edwards and in through the bar. But the Flames came back with 2 late. The first from Guy Chouinard on a slick passing play. Kent Nilsson and Paul Reinhardt, 3-1. The second just a minute later with just 1.5 to go in the period. Doug Riseborough hit the glass with his first shot and converted his second, 3-2 after 1 period. In the second period, Calgary tied it. Mel Bridgman screened Grant Fuhr as Jamie Hislop found mesh 5 minutes in, 3-3. The Oilers fought back to lead again just a minute later. Ken Lintzman walked out of the corner and scored on his second try. First goal as an Oiler. But again, Calgary came back. The Oilers couldn't clear it. A point shot from Kerry Antalanta went in off Lanny McDonald, 4-4 midway. With less than 4 minutes left in the period, the Oilers took the lead again. Mark Messier placed a pass from Kevin Lowe perfectly, 5-4 after 2. In the third period, the Oilers opened their lead by 1 with Tom Ralston's goal after a shot from the point got past Reinhardt's skates, 6-4 at 3:59. Flames closed within 1 again at the midway point. U of A grad Dave Hinmarsh, a great move on Lee Fogelin, swept in front and scored, 6-5. Final goal of the night was the nicest. With 5 minutes left, Puzar to Gretzky to Yari Curry all alone, bingo, 7-5. That's how it ended. 3 games in the league tonight. Bossy has scored for the Islanders in Vancouver, the rematch of the Stanley Cup finals there. 1-1 in the second period and a tie, a final just in from New Jersey. Again, the Oilers winning tonight 7-5 over the Flames, who cut the muscle for speed and finesse this season. Greg Musselman adds this.
The Calgary Flames finished 3rd in the Smythe Division last season and were eliminated very quickly by the Vancouver Canucks in the first round of the playoffs. General Manager Cliff Fletcher felt major changes were needed. He traded for players like Richie Dunn, Steve Kristoff, Doug Riseborough, and goaltender Don Edwards. The Flames also have a new man behind the bench in Bob Johnson taking over from Al McNeil.
I don't know where we fit in our division yet, and I guess I got to wait till see how we play, where our strong points are. It appears to me we got 2 skating teams in the division and 2 real good defensive teams in the division, and where does the Calgary Flames fit in, I really don't know yet.
What I see is encouraging. I think last year there seemed to be the guys that are from here last year seem to want to change things from what happened last year, and certainly I think some of the acquisitions that they made in the nets and on defense certainly going to help. And you know, it's a type of thing where you have to, it's hard to tell right now, but certainly things have been encouraging, and that's a good sign.
The Calgary Flames, with a new look, should be a better team for it this season. Greg Musselman, ITV Sports.
Minor hockey is back on the ice for another year with a big change for midget-age players. Instead of a double-A system this year, athletic clubs have opted for a major and minor system. Last year, there were 6 double-A midget clubs in Edmonton. This year, there are 6 minor and 4 major teams. The majors will not only play amongst themselves, but also Central and Southern Alberta clubs.
To make the player a better hockey player, the competition in our league will become stronger. I feel some boys who do go up to play junior hockey when they're 15 say they're not ready totally yet, so they leave, and our league isn't as strong because their league would be stronger with them in it. This will give them the opportunity to play against the stronger player. We won't lose them to junior hockey right away.
It has to, because some of the 16-year-old boys now wouldn't have it so easy playing with guys that are 15-year-old compared to now they're playing with all the other clubs are a majority of 16-year-olds. It makes it a little tougher to play, and it's a little more physical. You've got to play a lot smarter.
The move is expected to improve Alberta play on a national scale as well. Canada rolled in 11 medals today at the Commonwealth Games in Brisbane, Australia, including 4 gold. 3 of those came in the pool. Though our country won the day, they're still a long way off in standings. Australia with 23 gold and 62 total after the day. England 20 gold and 51. Canada 12 and 43 in all. We're watching 2 of Canada's swim medals earned today in the women's 200-meter butterfly. Kathy Bald of Ottawa upset favored Anne Ottenbright, also of Canada, by 1/10 of a second. Earlier, the Australians thought they won the 400-team medley with Lisa Curry touching first here, but they had jumped off the podium early. The Canadians got the gold. Australia disqualified. Elsewhere, Calgary's Kevin McDermott won his 75-kilo quarterfinal with a first-round KO of Scotland's Russell Barker. And University of Toronto student Dave Steen finished 3rd in 1,500 meters to close out the decathlon with a silver medal. In football, punter Hank Olisic returned to practice with the Edmonton Eskimos late yesterday. There's still no word on whether or not his suspension will be lifted. Executive manager Norm Kimball gets back from holidays on Thursday. Something will happen then. For the first time in 9 months of bickering, NFL owners sat down with players' reps late today instead of using third-party negotiators. It was a secret meeting in Baltimore, reportedly to let players pitch their demand for a minimum wage scale. Still, no further meetings are scheduled. And finally tonight, a note on these World Series playoffs, particularly the California Angels. Only one player has contributed to World Series winners. The last 2 times the American League did it. Reggie Jackson going for number 3 with California. Ray Gandolf has prepared this report.
Reggie Jackson became Mr. October 5 years ago when he hit 3 consecutive home runs in 1 World Series game against the Dodgers. That was 1977. In subsequent Octobers, Jackson was the self-proclaimed straw that stirred the Yankee drink. But even Jackson's ego was no match for the terrible-tempered Mr. Bang, Yankee owner George Steinbrenner. So free agent Jackson signed on this year with the California Angels and escaped from what former Yankee Sparky Lyle called the Bronx Zoo. George Steinbrenner, head keeper.
George does things his way. He has a motto, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. And, you know, he's, I don't know, I think hurt a lot of people. It is a great feeling to be out of the situation, to be not run down, to be not talked about, to be not badgered. It takes a lot of pressure off of you. I had no idea how much fun and how relaxed it was to play baseball again, and fans, the front office people, the management here, Gene Mock, the players have been extremely supportive and helped me get my confidence back.
The Angels might have won their division without Jackson. Baseball is the ultimate collaboration. Another Yankee refugee, Tommy John, who pitches tonight, won 4 games for the Angels in September. But Jackson hit 39 home runs for the season, a club record, 2 of them this month, October, Reggie's month. He hit .275 for the year and drove in 101 runs. He's in the playoffs for a record 10th time with 3 clubs. This is the Angels' 2nd appearance.
Feels great just to be with him and have him taste the winner. That's what it's all about, this guy right here.
Owner Gene Autry, whose only common denominator with George Steinbrenner is wealth, paid Jackson a reported $900,000 this year, plus a $203,000 bonus based on attendance.
Those kisses is for that extra money he's going to get.
Reggie Jackson was born on a Saturday 36 years ago. Saturday's child, we learned in the nursery, has to work for its living. Some work, some living. Ray Gandolf, ABC News.
In short tonight, one Alberta Junior Hockey League final just handed to us. The Habima Hawks defeated St. Albert by a score of 8-4 in Habima tonight. And 3 Montreal Expos underwent successful postseason surgery today. Andre Dawson had a bone spur removed from his right knee. Tim Raines had one lifted from his right foot. And Dave Tomlin had torn knee cartilage repaired. Rod Langway was today named captain of the Washington Capitals. He replaces Ryan Walter. Goalie Marco Barron was sent to the Boston Bruins Farm Club in Baltimore today. Pete Peters and Mike Moffat are the starters now. The NFL Players Association has canceled 2 of its scheduled All-Star games set for Sunday and Monday. The owners are in the courts fighting to have them wiped out altogether. Now, did you want to try that Gene Autry champion line again, or are you just going to pass?
We'll wait to see what happens in the playoffs.
Okay.
Thank you. Back in a moment.
A couple of real nice ladies just invited us to the hot tub.
Keep warm this winter in the most complete selection of fashionable and practical winter outerwear available yet at Work Warehouse. Bomber jackets, line vests, ski jackets, reversible jackets, and warm parkas, all low price to make your winter that much more enjoyable. Work Warehouse for winter warmth you can afford.
I wonder where Eddie is. Where's everybody?
When was the last time someone came on your television set and told you how to pick up a quick $1,000? I'm here to do exactly that. Drag, push, or pull any old car, truck, Honda, a giant Mike Brewer Chrysler Plymouth today will give you a minimum of $1,000 when you trade it in on any used car in stock. Now, let's talk about some low payments. Take a look at this. A 1980 Merc Bobcat, $49 down, only $119 a month. How about a 1979 Omni, $49 down and $109 a month? 478-9511's the number. Call now.
For over 130 years, Canada's been brewing beer judged to be among the world's best. But for the 21,000 Canadians who own and operate Labatt's, more pride comes from knowing that Labatt's Blue is the favorite choice when Canada gets together over a beer.
A medical drama with guts, new this fall.
Okay, so he takes the 2 paddles, puts it on the guy's chest, and hits him at a critical point. So he zaps him 5 times. By the 5th zap, the guy goes into asystole. So I say, okay, let's call the arrest, call the triple. I tell the nurse to ring it up. She loves it. Life or death, going for all the bananas.
To die?
Nah, we brought him back.
I want that Indian gas passer, Vijay Kochar, out of my operating room.
St. Elsewhere, this fall on ITV.
Tomorrow, the provincial election campaign begins in earnest. We'll report on key developments, crucial ridings, and issues. Also tomorrow, we'll continue to follow the TYLENOL investigation. Now, poisoning has been found in capsules in California. Of course, we'll watch the Everest expedition. One team is at the summit. Another group of Canadian climbers is expected to follow in a day or two.
Those stories and more tomorrow on ITV News at both 6 and 10 o'clock. And now on behalf of all of us here at ITV News, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Say good night.
Okay, kids, take a break. Coke is it the most refreshing way to make the most of every day? And wherever you go and whatever you do, there's something big waiting for me and you. Coke is it the biggest taste you've ever found. Coke is it the one that never lets you down. Coke is it the most refreshing taste around. Coke is it. Coke is it.
The Provincial October 29th Lucky Halloween Bonus Draw. All Provincial tickets bearing the October 29th draw date are eligible for the regular $500,000 main prizes, as well as subsidiary prizes, plus 13 bonus prizes of $131,313.13 each, to be drawn Friday, October 29th.
I love Fridays.
And you love Fridays in the weekly Provincial Lottery. I love Fridays. Our spirits growing on together all across the land. At home in your community, we're helping hand in hand. We're co-op and we're proud to be part of how you live. And knowing we belong to you, we've got much more to give. Through all the years, we're still the ones you can rely upon. And the co-op spirit's growing on. Spirit's growing on.
push a broom or lug a vacuum, do it the easy way with a Beam built-in cleaning system. Total house-wide cleaning was never so easy. Instead of pushing a broom and spreading dust to drapes and furniture, instead of lugging around an old-fashioned portable up and down stairs, just plug in a Beam and let a lightweight hose follow you everywhere for high-powered, dust-free cleaning of homes 20 days or 20 years old. Buy a Beam with a 3-outlet kit and money-back guarantee from $399.95 at these participating dealers.
Jiffy Vacuum Edmonton, Terrell Electric, Grand Prairie.
CITV, Channel 13, Cable 8.
I will tell the story of my Indian way of life, to live, sustaining the gift of life. From the high mountains, through the rivers, to the ocean, water flows, giving life to all that live. The sun, the moon shine down upon me, giving life and light.
Danse. I'm Tantu Martin. Tawao. Welcome to our native heritage. Isn't fall nice? We have a peaceful show for you today.